Hi there. My name is Kevin L. Cooney, and I'm a librarian here in the Exploration and Creativity Department.
And I'm Diana Levo Posner, and I am the Principal Librarian Associate Director in the Exploration and Creativity Department with the Los Angeles Public Library. And we're here to welcome you today to LA Made's Gallery 1988 Required Reading.
Before we begin, we'd like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind the scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made programs to you virtually. LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. If you'd like to see more of our amazing programs, please visit our online calendar at lapl.org/events. And for our LA Made programs, visit lapl.org/LAMade. Our website also has blog posts and video links that highlight the library's diverse resources and upcoming programs.
We would also like to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the first people of this land, honor their elders, past and present, as well as their descendants who are citizens of these nations. For more information on which territory you may reside in, check out native-land.ca, putting it right down there, and also we'll put it in the comments later. Also, I'd like to make sure you check out the library's lapl.org/150 landing page. It has all the information on the library's sesquicentennial. Kevin,
It's
say
a
that
mouthful.
fast.
Sesquicentennial. I said it once.
Sesquicentennial.
Right.
150 years old. That's right. But we look really 150 years young. Serving the Los Angeles community for all those amazing years. And on this page, you can find information on the 150th anniversary challenge. So it's going to go on till May 6th. Lots of time to catch up on reading and activities. Today, you're doing one of the activities. So check.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Huzzah. And we're scrolling the information right at the bottom of the screen, and we'll also put it in the chat so you can check out that page. And there's an amazing timeline. I learned stuff that I didn't know about. There is a virtual escape room with talks about a vortex. You're going to want to check it out. So please do visit that landing page. And now for today's program. Gallery 1988 Required Reading. Since its opening in 2004, Gallery 1988 has become one of the nation's most talked about art galleries. Sitting on the world famous shopping mecca of Melrose Avenue, now at 7308 Melrose, G88 was opened by California native Katie Sutton and Jensen Carp, and was the first pop culture focused art gallery in the world, as well as a premier venue to witness the rise of emerging artists before they break.
Today we'll be showing pieces from one of their newest shows, Required Reading, a show that the Los Angeles Public Library, that's us, was happy to collaborate with, as well as speaking with Jensen Carp, one of the co-owners of the gallery. Jensen is making his way to StreamYard, so that's going to be happening soon. I also wanted to remind viewers that we have this amazing poster. Steve, can you throw it up there? So if you want to be entered into a opportunity drawing to win one of these, email the EC department at ecdepartment@lapl.org for your chance to, or there it is, for your chance to be entered into a drawing. You do have to pick it up from one of our 72 library branches, though, in order to get it.
And Kevin, what's the size? Just so people realize, it's not a little poster.
No, it's not no tiny thing. It's a 24 by 36, so make sure you have enough wall space. My wife is sick of me bringing home posters because they're all over the place. But if you have plenty of wall space, this will make it a beautiful addition to your to beautify your home. So before we bring on Jensen, we did film a short video that kind of goes over the required reading show and talks about some of the origins of Gallery 88, as well as highlighting some of the pieces from the newest show, Required Reading. So we're going to play that, and then we're going to bring back Jensen on afterwards for some Q&A. So thanks so much, Steve. If you want to go ahead and hit that play button. All right. Hi there. My name's Kevin Awakuni. I'm a librarian in the Exploration and Creativity Department with the Los Angeles Public Library. I'm here today in Gallery 1988, located on Melrose, and I'm here with the co-owner, Jensen Carp, and we're going to be talking about the art show that we helped collaborate on, and all other things kind of pop culture art related. So welcome.
Well, we are really excited to do this. This has been a collaboration that we have been thrilled about since you came to us with kind of the concept of partnering up, and our artists are just as thrilled. And I think the art is kind of a sign of that excitement.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So limited edition prints for pop culture seems like a relatively new phenomenon, although it's been a little while, but I feel like you guys were definitely at the forefront of it.
Yeah, we knew everyone who did it at one point. Like it was like, because we had searched high and low for like a year before we even opened the gallery, and we had found anyone who had ever done it. And then we started to reach out to artists who we just liked that hadn't done it, and said like, why don't you do something influenced by Nintendo or Quentin Tarantino? We know you're a big fan. Like, well, no gallery will show it, and it's not really in trend. And we were like, well, what if you just did it for us? Like, what if that was something you did for us? And so we quickly started to run those shows, and they got a fan base. And from there, we ended up, actually partnering with so many of those studios and property owners because they loved seeing the creativity that was coming out of these like really exceptional artistic minds, and breathing new life into their stuff.
And do you remember the first show?
Yes. The first show was a nightmare. We didn't know what we were doing. And so it was 4 artists. One wall was kind of more traditional paintings, and the other was digital, which still at the time was rather new. People didn't know if it was like really art. And so, yeah, Katie and I made 4,000 mistakes. We put 2 large nails for all of these small pieces that we had hung, and there was like 200 on the wall, and we used 2 large nails each time. We didn't know what we were doing, but that's where that's where you learn, and you can only make mistakes to get better at it. And
for sure.
And yeah, I think Katie may have cried on the first night of installing. It was pretty rough, but yes, it was a nice start. We had a good crowd there, and we just learned more about the trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess what are some of like the misconceptions that people might have, if there are any misconceptions about, running an art gallery?
Well, for us, it's always the pompous aspect, which is like we opened because we thought places were too pompous. And so we run a gallery that's for the first-time buyer, for the first-time exhibitor. And, there's no question too stupid. Like I said, we opened the gallery, had no idea what we were doing. I had no history in art. Katie had been working, she was going to school for art history, but also working at a gallery for a year or two. And so we didn't know much. And so we hope that people come in with the same kind of lack of knowledge, and we can be a great entry point.
Should we talk about some of the art pieces from the required reading?
Sure, yeah. And it was really cool because like in the past we've seen books pop up as pop culture influence in our pieces from, even the early years with Greg Simpkins, who is known mostly by Crayola. Like he would use literature in his pieces all the time, or someone like Scott C., who's influenced by books a lot. So in order to go directly to them and say that we were partnering with someone so great as the LA Public Library,
Thank you.
Oh, no, they've been just so excited, and seeing that kind of excitement from our artists. 19 years in, they've painted everything.
Right.
So this has been really fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's take a look.
I'll take one. At the gallery, we really, at least in the last maybe decade, we really kind of balanced between digital and traditional paintings, which is funny because that's kind of how we started the whole gallery. And now we really do see ourselves kind of in the maybe 60-40, more towards prints and stuff. But we love when we get more traditional paintings. And this is an artist named Sherry Rogers. And this piece is called Holly Golightly's Cure for Mean Reds. And this is obviously a tribute to Capote and Breakfast at Tiffany's. And, I think we've seen in a lot of the pieces that people are actually using collage to bring actual words and pages onto the pieces. So this is one of them. And she's just an incredible painter, a lot of portrait stuff. And I'm a fan of anyone bringing Capote to the show.
Yeah. Now, when you send a call out to the artists for different things, do they respond with their idea and then you kind of approve it, or?
We don't always. It's not
an approval.
Yeah, it's more like if you have a question and there are certain things that we gravitate away from, or two, it's kind of a little bit of a dance. But in this case, we really opened it up. We sent them a large list of books that kind of represented what we wanted the show to look like, and then if they thought something came outside of that list, they would email us.
Right.
And so in this case, Breakfast at Tiffany's obviously is a quintessential book for a lot of people, and so we figured any Capote reference would work, and this one is more commercial, but I love it. It's great.
All right, let's look at some of the other pieces.
Great. So this is Caitlin Peters, another traditional drawing and painting, and I love this piece. I love anything that sort of distorts imagery.
Oh, I see.
It's just like my own weird liking when it comes to paintings. But this is actually from Caitlin Peters, and I love color bars used in pieces too. And so this is Watership Down influence, which is something we've seen a lot of influence from over the years. And people, I think when we were kids, I guess a cartoon had come out for Watership Down, and I had never seen it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have very fond memories of it, and then that took them to the book.
Right.
So a bit of a cult classic book. It's become over the years. So I love this piece.
Yeah. Cool.
So this is Valentina Zumo, and this is something that we see a lot in the show, Alice in Wonderland, which it's very cool. Again, probably a movie that led them to the book over time.
Sure.
And so this has collage elements as well as obviously traditional drawing and painting, but it's really cool because you see some actual 3D. 3D with the paper off the piece and cut out and stuff like that. And Mad Hatter's always good.
Yeah.
So this is another traditional painting, one of the larger ones in the show. This is from Rachel Satya, one of my favorite books of all time, Don Quixote.
Oh.
And I like. It's weird because we've done so much print sales over the last few years, but it's like a welcoming to see fully painted stuff back in the gallery a lot, especially. During the pandemic, a lot of people were home and investing more in art, so we saw a lot more sales of a traditional one-off paintings, and so I'm happy to see them kind of moving a lot again.
Yeah, and a great choice of framing.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm really curious how that, if they had the frame first and then kind of went that way.
And also the POV on this piece is so strange. It's kind of lower and up.
Yeah.
Which to see the windmill, but it's still I'm always still enthralled by the POV of artists and where they decide to be, their camera lens is.
Sure.
And this one is very unique and kind of off-putting in a cool way.
It's so eye-catching. Yeah.
This is an artist named Kim Herbst. And so we've shown Kim's work over the years a lot. And I think one of the easiest ways to explain what we do here at the gallery is that this is a one-of-a-kind print. Only one will ever be made. It's a lot like a painting in that way. It's just instead of it being traditional, it's done digitally. This is an artist named Travis Knight who did Frankenstein and an awesome piece. There's a lot of Frankenstein in the show and for good reason, but this one is really cool, and I thought it might be my favorite one.
Right.
And this is like a kind of layered screen print.
Oh, right.
And so really cool. And a different take too. People obviously doing Frankenstein's monster can do it very traditionally and easy, but I like it when it kind of comes from a different place.
Yeah, and it's not reminiscent of anything.
No.
It's unto itself.
And that's the cool part too about the show, which is that we do have imagery from the books that were turned into movies. Those are all things we think of.
Right.
But it's also been very cool to ask artists to do something based on what they read. There's no true imagery unless it's outside of your mind.
Sure.
To know certain things. So to see different takes on things that we kind of are used to in pop culture.
Yeah.
This one to me is an obvious kind of homage to their own thoughts of what Frankenstein's monster looks like.
Yeah, and a lot of the book lists were all generated by the librarians too. So that's also kind of cool because they were all vetted for diversity.
That's right.
And a wide range of topics and subject matter.
Yeah.
So we were really pleased with that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is an artist new to Gallery 1988 named Eamon Winkle. And I love this because it reminds me so much of like, obviously comic book art, but also like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen looking. And this is a traditional drawing that he did for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay.
But the very cool part is we also have prints that he did off of this that are colored in and everything. This is just sort of the line drawing of the piece. And they're just so cool and so detailed, and a little bit of color in there as well.
Yeah, it has that real League of Extraordinary Gentlemen kind of look to it with the faces and the style.
Yeah, it's super cool. I really love this. And new to the gallery, which we always love to see someone whose first show with us, at least exhibiting with us and really steps up. And so this is just one of the pieces that he delivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so these are two pieces from an artist named Valentina Zumo. Also new to the gallery for this show. And again, kind of the collage cutout of traditional pieces, which you're seeing a lot of, because there's kind of like a trend going on in paper cut original pieces.
Oh, okay.
And so this is kind of a medium between the two, which is painting and paper cut.
Yeah.
So you see it has like depth and it's coming off of the piece and kind of glued on at certain points. But this is her Wizard of Oz piece, which I thought was really cool. It's called Believe in Yourself. And then this one here is her piece based on Neverending Story, which is called Nothing is Lost, Everything is Transformed. And it made me remember that it was a book first. I was like, right.
Oh.
It's like, it's not a movie first.
So are you finding this style of art is becoming a little more popularized?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think like crafts in general became much more popular, especially during the pandemic. But you're just seeing a lot more of it, and it's falling more in line with like a do-it-yourself aesthetic. Which has been really cool for us because we've been kind of showing those people for like the last decade. But like, art fairs and things like that, people have been going to more. And so you see this kind of pop up more.
Is it over the years, have you kind of noticed different trends?
Oh, yeah.
In pop culture art?
Yeah, I mean, tons. There was a long time where, plush was really big for a second. Enamel pins still are around, but over the last few years has gotten a lot bigger.
Right.
Prints, when we first opened, I don't even know how much we were going to be doing digital prints. It just wasn't a huge, we saw what Shepard Fairey was doing, and that was so rare. It was like someone who could do print work and still be in galleries and in museums and stuff.
Right.
But it was few and far between. And so when we started to kind of feel it out and the business grew, prints have become the bread and butter. And so that's that kind of movement. And also like even just in style, you see it a lot. Like for a while, a lot of people were doing really kind of like feminine portraits and, different artists help kind of usher in new eras.
Sure.
And so I don't necessarily know who is, kind of at the top of the heap for people, I guess, quote unquote, copying them right now. But you do see a lot of like fair-based, do-it-yourself kind of craft stuff.
And that's kind of the newer trend.
Yeah, we see it more now than we ever have.
Yeah. Cool.
I wanted to bring this one out because I think it's so cool. This is an artist named Charissa Massis, and obviously 3D elements, and Alice in Wonderland themed. But like, I love seeing all the creativity that comes out of just one theme. Like you don't expect there to be something completely coming off the piece. It's got like a foam kind of feel to it. Really cool. And even just adding the red roses and stuff, just little elements from the book later, things that just remind you of Alice in Wonderland. And this is also kind of one of those pieces, and the ones I like the most are always ones that don't yell immediately to anyone that it's a theme. Like this could just be anything, and then when people find out it is Alice in Wonderland, I love that. It's almost like a secondary icing on the cake. And so, this is a very cool piece.
Has sculpture been something that you've also noticed as a trend in the game?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty consistent, but over the last few years, it's shown up more. Our glass cases that we put out have been more full than ever. And we've been more on the lookout for it, too. It's been selling well. So we look towards really cool new takes on things. And I think Charissa is a great example of that.
Right. No, it's great coloring.
Yeah, really cool.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this pre-tape portion, and then I think we might have some follow-up questions afterwards during the live set. So thanks so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. We're so excited. So hopefully people get to see it.
Yeah, please come out. All right, thanks.
All right. And the man of the hour is also here with us. Steve, if you could bring Jensen on.
No, I don't want to be the man of the hour.
All right, you can be the man of the next 5 to 12
That's right.
minutes.
I'll take man of 12 minutes.
Quite the expression. Thank you. Welcome for
No
for
worries.
joining us. I did want to make a quick correction in the video. We had mistaken Caitlin Peters' piece as being Watership Down, and it's actually from the novel Annihilation.
Yes.
Um,
You show me a piece with bunnies, and I will assume it's Watership Down.
so I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, we found out later on. So anyway, Jensen, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate all the collaboration you've been doing with the library, with the art show, and with the poster. And we just really appreciate it.
Man, we're honored to do it, and Katie and I are both products of the library. Me specifically, Los Angeles Public Library in Woodland Hills, and it's a place that I grew up in and learned about, and I still live near it. And so it's a big deal to me to be even in the same conversation as you guys.
Thank you so much.
Aw. Shout out to Woodland Hills branch. Woo!
That's right. It looks great. They do a great job there.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about it during the pre-tape portion just a little bit, but I kind of wanted to ask, what was the genesis of opening Gallery 1988? I
Yeah.
know when we did the pre-tape, we talked a little bit, but for our viewers who might be interested in knowing the origins of conceptualizing a pop culture gallery, because you're the first,
Yeah.
and it's such a great idea. And yeah, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, 19 years later, it looks like a good idea. When we started it, definitely all of our parents were like, "Are you serious?" And we, the idea being is that Katie, my business partner, had been working at a kind of highbrow art gallery on Melrose. And when I went in there to meet with her and say hello and have lunch or whatever as a friend, the guy was a jerk to me. And I wasn't completely out of the pricing range that he could have gotten money for me. He just didn't give me any, attention at all because of my age, or maybe because of what I wore. I don't know. And so that became a conversation piece for Katie and I to talk about, like, why don't they treat anyone that's younger or a first time buyer with any sort of respect? And we thought we'd open something. At the time, we were 20-year-olds. Now we are not. And we thought, why don't we cater towards people like us who would spend $300 on sneakers or $300 on a handbag, but yet $10 on a poster? Let's find that kind of creativity for people's houses. And so we started focusing on first-time artists and people who weren't necessarily in galleries yet, younger age artists and first-time buyers. And the place we found the easiest crossroads was in pop culture. So where other galleries were telling them not to paint, pop culture references, we encouraged it. And that's kind of where it was born. And companies like Disney and Sony and Mattel, and the list goes on, have sort of jumped aboard and partnered with us on things to celebrate the fans and the art that comes from it.
Did it seem like there was a real hunger kind of once you kind of gathered around that concept of it and started producing art?
Yeah. I mean, there was a hunger for me, and that was most important at first. I was getting the pieces in, opening them, and being like, I want this. And I knew that if I had that kind of feeling, that others would too, and they did. And within the first 2 years, we had a pretty good reputation for what we were selling.
Yeah.
I know when I walked into the gallery, I did, they have the pricing on the walls, and but you could look through, and I was like, I could totally afford this. And so could my, college kids, and and you can have art, which I bought posters growing up and put them on my wall, but it's just now it's like, this is art, and it was welcoming. Yeah, people like, hey, what's going on? It's like you feel welcome, because I know I've also walked into galleries when it was like I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like I belonged, and it was like,
Yeah, and that's it was weird for me to see sort of like the pompous aura that those galleries have, because all of them become professional buyers. They all get more money down the road. Or there's a story about Steve Martin walking into a Melrose gallery when he was like in his 20s and buying $100 piece. And now he owns one of the world's biggest art collections ever. And he travels it, and it's just, he has his own museum basically. And it all started from like a $200 piece on the same street we started on.
Wow.
And so we always know that there's someone out there that is looking for art and just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Well, I was just going to say, and also supporting, young artists, because you need that once you get that step in, like authors or illustrators, once you get that one like foot in the door,
Mm-hmm.
and that, you're like, okay, maybe I do have what it takes. And, someone does think my stuff's really amazing. So, that's what the library is all about, promoting. And that's what you guys are promoting. That's why it was a really
That's
good fit that Kevin was like, hey, we need to do a program with
Oh,
Gallery.
yeah, I love Gallery 88. I've always thought you guys did the coolest things and were just really innovative, and I just was really thrilled to do anything with you guys. It
Yeah.
was a real honor on our end as well. So,
That's awesome. And the cool part is too, is like some of our crossover, not so much in this show, but like in our gallery folklore has so much to do with artists who've went on to become pretty big child book illustrators. So from Scott C., who's, kind of home base, has been Gallery 1988 for almost 15 years, to guys like John Klassen, who stopped by, and Luke Flowers, who we show all the time. Those guys are all really heralded child, kids book artists.
Right. Award-winning American Library Association. Yeah.
That's right. And so, we've shown their art before and hope to more in the future. I know we have a Scott C. thing lined up for in the next year and a half. And those guys all, they love showing their art in a more personal way at the gallery. And then, their real, their hearts in kids' illustration books.
Yeah, it's cool. So what was you kind of mentioned the first show in the pre-recording, but what was the actual show?
God, it was a Canadian design firm called ESM Artificial. another artist here in LA named Plastic God. And then on the other side, if I can even remember, was Nikki Van Pelt, who's awesome. She's a really good artist. And maybe Chris Cuseo, who's still doing great stuff. He's a little more on the corporate mural side.
Okay.
But I think that was the 4 artists in the first show. I think we don't show any of them anymore.
I see.
For no reason. It's just 20 years later. So I think
Sure.
we've evolved a bit, and probably so have they.
Yeah. And how long does a show kind of take to conceive of and then execute? A little bit of a soup to nuts kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we used to say like 12 to 15 months when we were like convincing people to do it and they had no idea what it was. We were like, no, you take inspiration from this movie, and you had to like give them the whole spiel, and sometimes we'd send them DVDs. It was just like, we were a new concept, so
Right.
we had a lot to prove and a lot to explain. And then once it became kind of a universal norm for galleries to be doing this, now we kind of say 6 months.
Okay. And that seems to work out timeline-wise?
Yeah. I mean, you get a little less of people who take a longer time to paint, which is a bummer. We would like more of that.
Oh.
But schedule also is just a lot busier than it had ever been. So back in the day when we can really sit and not have a bunch of competition doing the same thing, it was easier. It was easier for us to take our time. Now we kind of have to rush around.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long do most of the shows stay up?
Well, we made this big announcement this past week that we'll be moving our gallery from Melrose, which is a street we've been on for 19 years, which is wild. We've had 4 different spaces there. We're moving to Glendale, which we're really excited about. It's going to be kind of a new era for us. So we're kind of putting together what that looks like. It's going to take us a while to take 19 years of being in a space somewhere new. So we're calling it a bit of a transition beginning. But normally we've been showing artwork for about 3 weeks. It stays up on the walls. Right now we're in transition, so we're hoping to figure out what the plan is in Glendale moving forward. But yeah, it's usually about a 3-week art show.
Wow, that is really fast.
Yes.
When we consider like when we have library exhibits, they stay up a while.
Yes.
Several months. Yeah.
And that is, and that's a reflection on our lower prices. I mean, truthfully, it's just the fact is that we don't need, we never try to sell a $300,000 painting so that we can be very slow. We have a lot of inventory. We have a lot that comes in because we are selling, affordable artwork. And hopefully the artists build from that point and get to raise their prices or move on to galleries that specialize in higher price points. That's the goal. So,
yeah.
Is the new location on your website, or are you guys not going to release it till like you are all set up because you don't want people like
Yeah, not yet. We'll be we get the keys tomorrow, and so then
Oh.
I'll probably take a neat little picture and post where we'll be. But it's all literally, we announced it the day we got the lease, let alone signed it. So we signed it the next day. But it's all so new, and truthfully, Melrose just wasn't for us anymore. It's become a bit scary in a way. Like we didn't feel totally safe for our employees, and a lot of other people on our block have moved out this last month. So we hope it changes, because that street means so much to me and always will. But for now, it was really rough.
And for those of you who are watching that might not be from LA, Glendale is, it's very close to LA. It's,
Yes.
our sister city. It's not.
Yeah. I don't ever want to say like that it's a cliche, but it's about 15 to 20 minutes from LA, which is literally what everything is from LA.
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes is you can get to anywhere. So,
and by Angelino standards, we know it by where freeways are. So it's like between the 134 and
or take the 2 and roll up. Yeah.
that's right.
take the 2.
Outskirts of the valley.
Like between Pasadena, LA, Glendale. Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the crazier shows that you've done in the 19 years? I mean, I can list off some of the ones that really, like the Ali Moss one, I know was a really big one, and the Lost, the Breaking Bad one, where you had several different locations where people could also pick up things. I know that one.
Yeah, Breaking Bad is one of the ones I think is probably the most fun. We had already done a kind of a program with the TV show Lost. And when we were saying no to a lot of things, like a lot of companies were coming to us and asking us to replicate the Lost program. And it just never made sense. And then I somehow got in contact with Vince Gilligan, who created Breaking Bad. I went in there and was like, why don't you guys have merch? I mean, it was like, I just wanted to have Breaking Bad stuff. And he was like, I know, I don't have none. He was like, oh, so he and I kind of concocted this idea. We went in and pitched it, and it became an art collection, and it was beautiful. And we got to sell all this stuff inspired by the show as it led into its final season. And we had a big art show reception with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul and Bob Odenkirk. The whole cast came. And that was incredible. We did something with Rick and Morty kind of before the total chaos of what they've become. So that was really fun. And we do an annual show every year called Crazy for Cult that we've been doing now for, I think, 16 years, almost 17. And that's artists, really what we're based on, which is how it all started, which is like sometimes 50 to 100 artists doing pieces based on modern or old cult classic films. We have 2 books based on it out. And that's the one that I think kind of is our bread and butter and what most people know us by.
Crazy for Cult.
Yeah.
How many artists usually contribute? Because it seems like it's so many, because it's such a big show.
Yeah, it's like 50 to 100. I mean, we've had over 100 before. We've done the show twice in New York. And those in New York, those had like 200 people in them. That was probably bad for our health. But when we do it here in LA, it's about 50 to 100, sometimes right in the middle. So
yeah. How did the pandemic affect Gallery 1988?
We did pretty good. I mean, it was this year that's been thinner for us, to be honest, people going back and kind of facing the recession. I think this year's been harder than the last 2 years. I think the pandemic years actually ended up being our second and third most successful years. And I think that's because people were home and wanting to look at new things on their walls. And so people started to look more towards home care. And that was awesome. And artists were around and wanting to paint more, and that was really cool too. So I hope it can keep going once we can, maybe move the economy in the right direction a little more. But pandemic didn't really bother us other than not having the receptions, and it sort of affected reception attendance moving forward. I mean, I myself, I think I'm just getting comfortable being around large groups at most, and that's with a spike here right now.
Right.
So I think our opening receptions are still kind of a thing, I think, that's being defined in many industries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And people can buy online too, so they can look at your website and kind of like view a gallery. Like during the pandemic, a lot of museums set up where you could kind of do virtual tours, and so that's probably how they did purchase things from when they went to your website.
Right. We have a great website, and on top of that too, like we're working on the idea of having the virtual tours kind of through Instagram Live, or just some sort of new program that shows you the artwork. But I mean, we all know that seeing the artwork does mean a lot. So no matter what, our gallery, even during transition, will be open for appointment. So that'll all be on the website soon.
Yeah. And I will say that because when we got to go and some posters, and you walk in and you see it on the wall, it just, yeah, I was
Yeah.
so excited. I was like with my cell phone, like, oh my God, look at this one. Kevin, come over here. Look at this.
And
Oh
too,
my
like
God. Yeah.
the other thing you learn from the gallery and online, and most people should be looking at the numbers, but it is kind of funny too when you look at something and you're like, this is 16 by 20 inches. I thought it was like 8 by 10. You know, like sometimes can be a little confusing. So, you know, that's good to see it in person too.
Yeah. And one of the pieces is the nesting dolls of where the sidewalk,
Where the beasts are.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking.
Maurice Sindak, I'm blanking.
Oh, where the wild things are?
Where the wild things are.
Yeah.
And it was just, you just want to touch everything, but you're just sort of like, it's just the artwork. It just was beautiful. I mean, they're nesting dolls, but it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's great. And again, I think like more our generation than any before us, like we're defined by the books and the TV shows and the video games and the movies that we love. And fandom is obviously bigger than it's ever been before. And I think that, our gallery has been at the forefront of that for many years, whether it's working with Star Wars or working with Marvel for Avengers or the Oscars. You know, we did a full ad campaign for the Oscars one year. And so we've always been kind of like hand in hand with that for a long time as far as art and pop culture. And we love being there.
Yeah. What's a typical workday look like for you?
We 19 years later, I have the luxury of being able to take care of mostly my 15-month-old and 3.5-year-old right now.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
That's what we were doing today, and bringing in family for them. And he had an event at his school. But social media wise and setting up shows in the future and correspondence really falls into Katie and my lap. And we have a great gallery manager named Courtney, who has been with us now many years, who, if she wasn't around, it would burn down. So, it's sort of about setting up scheduling. And obviously with the move, we start really, really moving in the next 2 days. So it's those kind of things that are taking up most of our day. But I luckily am mostly behind a computer or phone for these things nowadays.
Oh, okay. When you were first starting, I guess, can you paint a picture for just how busy? Was it a 12 to 15-hour day every day?
It was 24. I mean, it was literally, if I was awake, it was gallery stuff. I mean, and that was for like the first 6 to 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And I ate, breathed, lived. I did the whole thing for it. So it is kind of like, at this point, it's difficult to have that kind of energy about it.
Sure.
19 years later, other than the gusto and the excitement about it, I still have as much as I ever had.
Yeah.
Seeing the artwork is maybe even more exciting now, just because I feel like people try to bring new things to the table, and every time I get more excited.
Yeah.
But as far as like what we used to do, I wouldn't even be able to tell you the schedule, because it just bled into each other all day. It was just email. We used to send out cards to people to tell them upcoming shows. So I would stay up all night stamping those, or, installing took us hours back in the day because we didn't know what we were doing. And so there was that, and hand manual, before the pro, QuickBooks and before Shopify. And when we used to have to write down every order and bookkeeping and setting up, we did our own website for a long time. So putting that into this, I mean, it really was a 24-hour job for us. And, if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be here today. And so we knew that was kind of put in that work then, so that when I'm 43, I can be completely destroyed by my children, I guess.
It'll happen.
Yeah. And so I get to do that a lot. And my wife and I have a little production company together too. So we do things that are, outside of the gallery and TV and movie related. So we get to do a little bit of fun now because we put so much work into what it was then. Sure.
That makes sense. How do you discover the new artists that you work with?
Well, at this point, we also get lucky that a lot of people submit. We over the past 10 years, I think we've probably had 4 or 5 submission calls. We used to never do them, and then we started to get so many great people emailing in that we were like, we should advertise this. And so we get a lot from submissions. I'm always going to be a web crawler in a way. Like, I'm always going to be the person checking out the web and the internet. And so I was able to, find great people that way. Or Instagram is that a game changer for artists. And so, this person leads me to this person, leads me to this person. And so that happens a lot as well. But at this point now, it's a lot of submissions, which we take all year long. If you're watching, 3 to 4 JPEGs or a link to a website website, and that all goes to gallery 1988 Melrose at gmail.com. You just put submissions in the header, and they don't have to be themed or anything. We just like to see your art. And then if it fits a show that we have coming up, we'll reach out.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Mhm.
a great way to just, take stuff. And I will say Instagram, that's what Kevin and I use to check out, hey, we could have this as a great
Oh,
program.
that's true. That's where we do find out our LA made ideas as well.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a problem for my closet. What I do with Instagram, because it really does. It makes it so much easier to find things you never would see, outside, and then you become a huge fan of it, and you find yourself waiting for the releases. I mean, that's what the gallery is too. It's been about exposing art to people and getting them to have some sort of fervor for a collection.
Yeah, for sure. Favorite part of the job?
That's a good question. I think my favorite part of the job at this point is maybe seeing the first few pieces come in for a themed show. I think that's kind of almost always been my favorite part. I think Crazy for Colt was an idea that I had when we had kind of first opened the gallery. And when Jeff McMillan and a couple other artists from that year Greg Simpkins turned in his Edward Scissorhands. And there was like a bunch of, the first 3 or 4 that dropped off. I was like, oh no, this works. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I still get that feeling weirdly. I still get the feeling that, maybe this one won't work. If we do, we did a Hitchcock theme show and it was really cool to see. And, I still am always like trying to get Katie to do the meme show more and more. And we've done it a couple times. And that one always makes me so excited. It's like, I get really excited when I see it come together through the first few deliveries. Still a great feeling.
Oh, cool.
And of course, working with the library. That was my favorite part of the job.
It is a huge deal for us. I mean, even jokes aside, like it's a big deal for us when we work with anyone who gives us any sort of ability to collaborate or still that takes us serious. It's still like crazy that, we were kind of the ugly stepchild when we first opened. And now, here we are 19 years later.
Yeah. I think you guys need to write a book.
Well, listen, I don't want to write a book about my experience because I never want to relive those first 6-7 years. But we've released tons of art books. We've released 2 Crazy for Colts over the years. We put out Scott Campbell's Showdowns books.
Oh, wow.
We put out Travis Louis' first book that I still love so much, Curiosities. And then we put out Brandy Milne's book. Over the years, we've put out our share, and we're still looking into doing some more. But we don't ever want to relive the days of staying up all night.
Those early days.
Putting stamps on envelopes. I'll let that live in my legacy.
But luckily here at the library, everyone can check out books that you guys helped, help produce. So lapl.org, people.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys do have Crazy for Colt. And then there's artists who, have been arm in arm with us for years, like Scott C. And those books you definitely have all.
Right.
And Luke Flowers. And Luke Flowers is a great artist who has really picked up in the last few years with kids' illustrations. At our house, we read his Mr. Rogers book to our kids that he did with the estate. But Luke Flowers, great name to follow, especially in kids' illustration.
Oh, cool. Final question, kind of what's next for you guys?
A brand new location, which we are excited about. That's going to be great. But it really is, people that we've been showing for the past 5 to 6 years. I think this next year is going to be really awesome for them. People like Ashton Gallagher, an artist who, was selling $200, $300 originals when we first started working with him, is now, anything he puts out sells within minutes. This last piece sold for $2,000. Someone like that is so excited. I'm so excited for 2023 for Ashton, just because I think all his hard work is paying off. I also think, when, these theme shows that we do, like when they have a familiarity, a tradition that goes on with them, those are the ones that kind of really pop. And so, obviously Crazy for Colt is going to come back, and we're doing a new one, which we're excited about, which will celebrate the golden era of Hollywood. We've always kind of shunned away from the idea of doing very old movies. But I think as we get older, we've all watched Charade 100 times, or Notorious, or, or Birds, or whatever it is, something from that golden age,
Right.
and finally allow artists to create pieces based on that.
Yeah.
And I get to do the show. I kind of always said that if we lasted 20 years, that we would do a show that only I care about. And so we are doing The Burbs, the Tom Hanks movie,
Tom Hanks, just all burbs.
own show. It's basically my 20-year promise. And so we will see what happens with that.
I feel like 20 years, you deserve one for just you.
That's right. I'll take the loss if it doesn't work. But I love the movie. And also, to be honest, anytime someone has done a Crazy for Cold piece based on The Burbs, it's went really well. So I also have a little bit of wind in my back.
Okay, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for collaborating. Again, we've just been so thrilled to just work with you guys and have the art show. And Steve, can you put on the poster one more time? And
yeah, these are great LA artists, DK&G Studios.
Yeah.
And so much detail.
Diane's trying to move.
So much.
Yeah.
I can do it. So much great detail in this art, and all the books that are on there, and it's really good. And DK&G has been a superstar for us for a decade now. It's almost like we bring them in as a pinch hitter when there's a collaborator we love. So
yeah.
And just so everyone knows, all of our branches, the 72 branches, we just sent them copies. They're going to be hopefully putting it up in their location.
Yeah.
And, maybe some lucky 150th anniversary reading challenge.
Winner. Yeah, might
prizes.
be. Yeah, in May. So
yeah.
Well, Jensen, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we just best of luck with all things. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Bye, Kevin. Bye, Diane. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I also want to mention the poster. All the books on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
Go to our website, lapl.org/150.
Mm-hmm.
There is a list of the titles of the books that are on that poster.
Yeah, and they're all linked to the catalog. So if you want to know the title and find it on the catalog and see which library branch has it, it's all right there for you.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for today's LA Made program. And remember to check out the library's online calendar at lapl.org/events for upcoming library programs, including our next program, which will be one of our first in-person programs again, at the Taper, featuring photographer Gregory Borges in conversation with writer Luis J. Rodriguez. And this will be on Sunday, January 22nd at 2 p.m. The event is free, but space is limited. More information will be coming out soon as we're putting the final touches on that. But that's going to be really exciting.
I do want to mention again for everyone to check out our 150th landing page. lapl.org/150. Until next time, we truly appreciate all your support, and the success of LA Made and all of our library programs could not happen without viewers like you. So thank you so much.
All right. Happy 2022, everyone. See you next year.